everybody.
Hi.
I'm Kat Farron. I'm founder of Movement for Modern Life, and I am delighted to be joined by Adam Hocke tonight. How are you doing, Adam?
I am all right. I am shockingly at home, speaking to you from home. But I
Well,
am
very pleased that you
yeah,
are. Thank
yes.
you for taking the time this Sunday night. And this is day 2 of our online home yoga retreat.
Fantastic.
I know that lots of folks have been really enjoying the retreat, and they're enjoying your class today. It was this morning was your grounding class, so thank you for that, Adam. I'm always so grateful for it as well, and I've had quite a few private messages from people as well saying, what a great class it is, because it is very important to kind of keep centered, because especially right now, it's like none of us have got any schedules. We don't have any plans. We don't, like, all the things that we think are important in life. They've all gone.
Everything that gave us structure, that made us feel where we are and who we are, is suddenly
exactly. It's all exploded. So we've got a few people here. Hey, Sandy. And when I look down, I'm reading who you all are. So it's lovely to see you. Hey, Lizzie. Hi, Anne. Hi, Vera. Hello, Mum. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope that you have been enjoying day 2 of your retreat. We'd love to hear how things are feeling for you, because we have lovely questions for Adam, but it would just be really great to have a chance to connect and to really check in. How are we doing? What are we feeling about the theme? Lizzie, hi from the Swiss Alps.
Oh, nice.
Sounds beautiful. Hiya, Joanna. Thanks for your lovely classes, Joanna says. Yeah, I know Adam is such a legend. Adam, you're my favourite teacher. I know that I always say that, but you really are on Movement for Modern Life, because it's that ability to weave in the humour with the philosophy, very grounded in yoga philosophy. This isn't gym class.
No. Yeah. And I'm loving hearing everyone's responses to the classes. I think especially in this time, we're getting a lot more feedback. And I love it. I really do love it. I love hearing how people get on, how it makes them feel. And tonight I love hearing things that are challenging that we're trying to figure out. But this is part of the community of it. And I'm so glad and grateful that you see, even with an online business, that community is important, that this isn't just you in your living room and me filming this in a studio and it's like not connected. We do this for each other. We do this for you, and we want to make it a communication.
Yes, absolutely. And hello to Kathy. Good evening. And hiya, Heidi. Nice to see that you're watching too. So absolutely. Should we start off with a little something to get us grounded?
Yeah, let's do it. So I think it'd be good. I'm going to sit a little bit better in my chair. If we all sit upright as comfortably as you can be. If you prefer, you can lie down, but just try to stay awake. And on the theme of grounding, I thought it would be good if we got immediately in our body. So we'll do an embodied short meditation. So close your eyes or look downward. And as you do so, first try to feel the points of contact between your body and the chair and the floor. And let weight settle into those points of contact so you feel where you are. And if you feel a little asymmetrical, just let weight shift until it finds a balance. And we're going to focus first on the outside and surface levels of how you feel in your body. So as you still get settled, if something is feeling uncomfortable and you can make a shift to help it feel more comfortable, do so. But if it's just there and that's part of you and your experience of being in your body today, breathe into the space around whatever is uncomfortable or tense or tight, and breathe around it. And then feel, as best as you can, your breath, and not just that you're breathing. And please don't try to change the breath. Simply notice that you're breathing. And notice its sensation in your body. So what does breath do as it enters and leaves you? What parts of you come into motion? What stays still? And how swiftly or not does that motion move through you? And then from the breath and from this inside out awareness, we'll try to focus more a little bit on the internal sensations of body. So bring your attention to your right leg. And what does your right leg feel like from the inside out? So sometimes there's like a tingle or an electric feeling, maybe little twinges of movement. But what does your right leg feel from the inside out? Then take your awareness to left leg. Same thing. What does the leg feel like from the inside out, underneath the skin? Then your right arm. And your left arm. Belly and abdomen, inside out. Breath might be moving. Digestion might be happening. And beyond that, what else is felt? Up into the chest and rib cage. Can you feel beating of heart? Can you still feel the breath? Can you feel anything else? We'll come into right side of head. And left side. The whole head. And your whole body. And if there's still one part of you that needs a little care, bring your attention there. And without getting to a storyline about what feeling there means, see if you can just feel that space. It might be an actual space, it might be a heart space. And direct a little kindness there through your intention and your self-dialogue and through your breath. And we'll just stay 3 or 4 breaths just in that one spot. Then we'll come back to the points of contact between you and your chair and the floor. And you can either bow down or maybe just grab your chair, feel something that's there and around you. And if you want to bow, you can. Okay. Here we are.
That was grounding.
I think so.
That
Yeah.
was it. And it's interesting because obviously the theme today is grounding. And I know certainly as somebody who is new to yoga, I was like, I don't know what that means. What is it? I'm very grounded. I don't know what why do I need grounding? I'm not a pot plant. But then when you have that feeling, it's like an elephant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
When
there.
you're grounded, you know what it is, but it's quite hard to describe it.
I think it's easier to describe what grounding means, and it's sort of like it's a yoga jargon term, uh, but we'll back up and think if we want to define this, I think it's easiest to begin with what do I feel like when I'm not grounded?
Right.
What is that state? I think it's easier to define that because we're actually more familiar
Yeah,
with the
absolutely.
state of being not grounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to give, I mean, we can go on. I mean, this could be a lifetime of conversation to try to figure out what this is. But we'll talk about a few key things. And for me, and this is how I design the class and design a lot of my content, is that the state of not being grounded probably means to some extent you are anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And anxiety is often wrapped up in thoughts about the future
Mm-hmm.
rather than present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And anxiety exists in certain parts of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it also signals to the nervous system to go into the state that many people are familiar with, which is fight or flight, or fight, flight, freeze, or just sympathetic nervous system arousal, which does not make you feel very good. It serves a purpose. Say you are in danger, or you need to do something very quick, or it's like that story of the mother who's in a car wreck and her children are trapped in the car and she throws it like that. That is that when we're so hormonally charged up. So it has its purpose, but we need to be able to get out of it. And sometimes we get stuck in this state of anxiety. And especially when things are happening all around you that are anxiety inducing.
Right. Like the global pandemic, for example.
For example, that might do it.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about not being grounded, we're talking about being anxious in mind, but also anxious in body. And one of the things that can happen when you're anxious in mind is that you're just living there in your not very Disney fantasy land. And it's not a happy fantasy land, and it's just you just spinning thoughts. And when you do that, that means you're not in your body. And when you're not in your body, things like poor digestion happen. Pain happens. All sorts of inflammatory illness happens if you're not living in the sensation of your body and know what your body feels like. And someone on the other side of this is if you're chronically anxious and you have like and poor digestion and things happening, then you might just try to ignore your body because it's causing you grief.
Right.
And then it's just this cycle and things move. It's not one thing causes another. It's all circular and bound up. So this is a big stew of stuff. When we're not grounded, for me, that means we're trapped in this anxiety and disembodiment and not present moment, just stuckness. So what do we do about that? What do we do about that? And there's a lot you can do about it. For me, in yoga, it means we have to do some stuff that manipulates the nervous system in a way that down regulates it out of this high alert.
Right.
Down regulates. So in terms of active practice, for me and my style, it would be to start with vinyasa yoga or rhythmic breath centered yoga. that doesn't go too fast and seeks a regular rhythm of inhale and exhale, a regular rhythm. And then really a lot of the motion, especially for me in some of the sun salutes and longer flows, a lot of the motion is just to give you something to do so you can coordinate breath to a rhythm. Because it can be hard just to sit there and breathe in rhythm, although that is a practice, to breathe in rhythm for 20, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, an hour and a half. But if you have stuff to do, it's like, oh, arms go up, arms go down, arms go out, arms go in, and you do that with an inhale and an exhale, you can regulate your breath. And when you regulate your breath, you regulate your heart rate. And when you regulate your heart rate, you regulate a lot of the nervous system. So there's that. Then through some of the longer held shapes, depending on how it's taught and depending on how it's practiced, it gives us an opportunity to feel body sensation, which means we're not stuck in the spinning in our head if we're feeling things in the body, which is different than saying thigh turn out, leg lift, arm lift, balance. It's like, no, if it's different if you're in Warrior 2 and start thinking, what does my thigh feel like? What does my chest feel like? How does my back heel feel into the floor? And if you come into body sensation, that means you get out of that part of your brain that causes anxiety. So there's all the mindfulness of the body that a slower, more mindful practice will do. And I basically pretty much everyone on the site, I believe, is working at a pace that supports this. And you also have things like Mimi's Qigong that's built on that mindful, very slow movement where you're feeling internal sensation and movements of energy. That's the good stuff, is when you're having the time to focus on body sensation. That gets you out of that. And then the last little nugget for now, before I stop rambling, is all the little tricks and hacks you can do that yoga is well set up for to downregulate nervous system. One of the simplest is passive inversions. And this is far less flashy than you may be thinking as you hear the word inversion.
I'm thinking bikini, beach, and Instagram. Right now, I need to get on that beach. We'll not do an inversion without the camera present.
Yes, so not that stuff. And especially, actually not really for me, the handstands and the forearm balance for this purpose. All I mean by inversion is your heart is above your head.
Right.
And there's not much effort anywhere else to sustain that. And what happens when heart is above head is the body's very intelligent. The way it's set up is there are certain reflexes to prevent blood pressure getting too high in the brain when heart is above head, because they don't want actually we don't want that flush down into the head that sometimes people cue. It's like, oh, isn't your brain is being flushed with new blood? No, we don't want huge new thrush of like major blood pressure in the head. The body stops that by clocking the heart rate and the blood pressure down when heart is above head.
Oh, interesting.
And that calms your nervous system. You will get that if you just lie down. But if you can do something like, say, supported bridge with your chest pitched upward, or legs up the wall with a little cushion underneath your butt, or I've done stuff with legs on the chair where your heart is pitched up and your head is lower.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And it works. It works.
And you know what? There's such good Sunday evening poses. I'd really encourage everyone, after you've watched this, like, just put your legs up on the sofa and have a lie down. It's so wonderful.
I do it pretty much every night.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Why not? And then beyond that, the little tricks, Eyebags. Not just because, oh, the lavender and the loveliness. No, there's a reflex around, again, for this sort of the pressure reasons. If there's a little bit of pressure around the eye, blood pressure will go down. So there's a reflex there.
Didn't know that.
So that's part of why Eyebags really work, the pressure. And then we can get into all these little hot spots with the vagus nerve and things like the forehead, the feet. Oh, I did Lisa's sleep recovery, one of her classes. She did that wonderful massage and the
Marmot
hand.
points, yeah.
Yeah, so we get into the marma points and all these little bits of the body that clock you down. There's so much we can do. So we can ground. And then it's just simple. Get in your body, feel where you actually are, and then we use the sensations of the body to get us into the present moment. And we do that all compassionately and slowly and kindly. And that to me is what a grounding practice is.
Nice. I like that. That totally makes sense. I mean, I'm like most humans. I spend most of my time somewhere in my noodle.
Yeah.
As a result of which, I spend a lot of time going through mental to-do lists, mental panic because things haven't been done.
Yeah.
It has the added benefit of causing some quite serious frown issues. You know, and our whole lives are up there and our bodies feel basically irrelevant. They're just sort of mobiles for our brains.
Yeah. And that has serious health implications.
Right.
Serious health implications when you're not embodied. And I think you can actually have a yoga practice that looks hugely sophisticated and fancy on the outside, but it's just you telling your body what to do. And it's more, it's just that machine carrying around your head. Or you create a yoga practice that is about inside out feeling. And that's a whole other world, which really excites me.
Yeah. No, it's good. We've had some comments. So hiya, Hazel. I'm pleased to see that you're here. And I'm glad that Heidi's learning loads of interesting stuff. Ebru has enjoyed your class today, Adam, and the yoga. We're joined by Joe as well. And Lindsay Metcalf. I'm glad that you enjoyed that meditation. Yeah, I did too.
Oh, I'm glad.
And Kathy, yes, it was great exploring how it feels inside the limbs, because so much of us, especially, I'm going to say especially women, but I think probably every human, we sort of objectify ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, and that's one of the other layers of disembodiment, which can lead to this feeling of not being grounded and the anxiety, is when you start, because of all the social pressures,
yes,
not liking what you got down there.
That's right.
And not wanting it to be there, especially gut health. Ooh, so important and so problematic because we hate that region.
Absolutely.
We hate it.
And the hips, it's like, how do you feel in your hips? Oh, fat, And we're used to sort of how we feel on the inside being how we perceive ourselves to look on the outside. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed that, Kathy. Hiya, Susanna. And first time she's tried your classes.
Aww.
And enjoyed them both. And
welcome to my little world. I'm excited.
And as well, welcome to your world. First time on your classes as well. Yeah, and Christina said, doTERRA, you deal with emotions. How, I think that's a typo.
Yeah.
How do you deal with
emotions? Ah. Yeah. So this is an interesting question. For me, the emotions coming out on the yoga mat and with the yoga practice and the yoga tools, it's not a psychotherapy session.
Right.
So we're not going to deal with it in that manner with those tools and start trying to process and like think about what caused that, why is that, and like spin it out. On the yoga mat, my question would be, where is that emotion felt in my body? Rather than what is the causation of that emotion, what is the history of that emotion, what is that emotion making me do or not do, or how is it affecting my life and all that stuff. Right. Which, like, there's a time and a place to deal with that and process that. On the yoga mat and with the yoga tools, it would be, where do I feel that emotion in my body, and what is the actual felt physical here and now present moment sensation of that emotion in my body? Can I do something with asana or some of the tools that I've given you, or like the gazillion tools that are out there, to give a little kindness and care to that emotion as expressed in the body? And then things might happen. So say you've done this restorative practice, or you've done this hip practice, or you've done this shoulder practice, and you find yourself crying at the end of it. You can have a choice where you think, why am I crying? What is that? and like try to figure that out. Or you can say, I needed to cry. So I've cried. But it's important. Then the other layer is later on that night or the next day, was that cry that I had cathartic and helpful, or did it enact another trauma?
Right.
And if it was cathartic and helpful, fine. You had it. If it was not a pleasant thing and you didn't want to go there, then you start addressing, well, what did I do physically in that practice? What sort of comfort can I have to not go back into that until I'm ready?
That's very, very sensible. It's just an acknowledgement, I suppose, of the emotions for here and now. It's not a sort of in-depth, why am I feeling X, Y, or Z? It's just an acknowledgement, and that is.
Yeah, I mean, because psychoanalysis and that type of talk therapy has its place, but that's not what I know about. I know about dealing with how it's felt in the body. And I think just pure rest and caring for that physical expression of emotion can be extraordinarily powerful with no need to talk it out.
Yeah, sometimes I think just feeling things and not being in the head and trying to think things through is grounding. Coming back to that.
Yeah, because we can, by trying to think it through, we can make something that was sort of abstract and just sort of like elusive around us into a concrete thing, a concept that has structure and substance and history, and we can talk ourselves into it.
Yeah, interesting. Great. Thank you, guys. Your questions and thoughts on that. Keep them coming, please do. What we were going to do now, I think, if you're okay with that, Adam, is to just go through some of the questions that people had before we went live. So we asked a couple of alignment type Q&As and various yoga Q&As. And as we talk, it would be great to hear feedback, thoughts, comments. And if we don't have time to deal with them right now, we'll check the feeds carefully and we'll go back. So yeah, let's go through some of those thoughts, Adam.
All right.
So the first one, I think, it was about inversions. So since we were talking about inversions, maybe that would be a good one.
Sure. I think so. Was it Laurel who had asked this?
Thanks for the question, Laurel.
Yeah, last time, and I wasn't. We sort of rushed to answer this. So Laurel had asked about headstand and forearm stand and tips to building confidence in attempting to try these poses.
Good question.
So why do we separate this between physical confidence and competence, physical confidence and competence, as well as the emotional, like I'm ready to do this, maybe scary thing?
Yeah, sounds good.
The physical competence and confidence, I'm going to keep saying that because it's going to build my lip muscles. I would probably start with things that are leading you in the direction of handstand and forearm balance before I would get too involved with wanting to go up into headstand.
Right.
And this is for a variety of reasons. First big reason is I wouldn't mess about putting weight on my neck and shoulder complex until I'm very familiar with being upside down and I have a lot of upper body strength and core strength to get the lift, and and I'm not just like wildly lifting up. I want to be very familiar with that space before I work on being on my head. So handstand, especially if you do the stuff at the wall, and the walking up the wall and the L shape at the wall, will let you develop that strength and familiarity with being upside down and bearing the weight. So I would do a lot of that work first at the wall. And then if you want to work on headstand, I would say things like, this will be where practical has really helped me, is to do something like being on your forearms on a mat, but have your feet on a blanket. So your forearms are on a mat, your feet are on a blanket, and you're doing plank. and you just practice sliding your feet forward towards your hands, in and out, in and out. And it's really, I'm sorry, it's like a brutal core strength thing. But that is one of the best drills I find to get the sensation of the core lift that will be necessary to ultimately lift your legs off the floor and pike up into the beginnings of headstand. So I really like forearms down, not head on the ground, only forearms on a mat, feet on a blanket, not on a mat, slide in and out. So hips, in and out, in and out, in and out, and you develop some strength. So that I think that has really helped me. A thing to know about headstand is not everyone will have the same hand position. So some people will have just cupped around the back of their head. Some people will have a fist. Some people will have an open fist.
Right.
That just has to do with your proportions and the size of your head relative to the length of your arms. So you play around with hand positions. And in terms of emotional readiness to do this thing, I think do it with a wall, do it with a friend, do it with someone there giving you that if you can. And the first time you ever get up, come right on down and then try to go right back up again. And just build short stays, high repetition.
That's a good
Short stays, high repetition. Because what happens with a lot of inversions is that we get up and get really excited, we're really scared, and then panic.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
And then down we come, or we catastrophically fall. So I think if you really discipline yourself, I'm going to get up, I'm going to come right on down, and then I'm going to try it a few times, and that's enough. That's enough. And then don't practice it 5 hours a day. So I think that's a few things that you can play with, Laurel, and I'm sure there are plenty of practices on the site. And you said you're going to do more of a challenge later.
Yeah, right. We did have a strength challenge planned for the summer, but I want to see the lay of the land in the summer before we promise that content. As you can all imagine, the content that we had thought of and planned, not quite gone to plan.
Yeah, so we need different things right now.
Absolutely. So we'll see how everybody is as to whether or not we're going to do that. For sure, at some stage, we will do the strength challenge because it's a psychological as much as a physical thing. And I think having various thoughts, lots of input from different schools, different teachers, and supporting each other through. I mean, for me, just to overshare, for me, looking at something upside down is scary. I have a sort of weird vertigo. I see it upside down, and I'm like, oh my God, that's terrifying. So, everybody, we've all got our different things.
Should we look at the question that's in chat? Because since that just happened.
Like this question.
That's a good question.
Thank you, Susanna, for asking.
So so Susanna, you said?
Yep.
So if I don't answer it to what helps you, just type in the chat. So she's asking the sideways, the twist over the bolster, I believe, in the evening pause practice. I can't twist around far enough. And I would say if twisting all the way around is not working, you can simply not twist all the way around and more lie on your side.
Okay.
So I would try that. You can also stagger your knees more and maybe place some blankets and things between the knees. You can get yourself a little bit away from the bolster. You could make the bolster lower by just being some stacks of blankets. You could make it higher and maybe pitch it a little bit up. So you can put maybe another cushion underneath the head of it. So you can play with the angles that you have turned. So you can just purely lie on your side is really nice with the knees bent and the legs staggered. Or if you're into the twist, try it a little bit higher up or a little bit lower down. And that should give some opportunity for it to feel good. So if that is not enough ideas, Susanna, let us know. And then also, if it's still not working, and this is, conversation is long gone, put it in the comments of the actual class, and we'll try some new ideas.
Mm-hmm. And on that topic, when you're doing that kind of twist, is it better to have your knees towards the chest or further down? Like,
I would, yeah. So we're lying on our belly on a bolster, twisting. I think knees not too high up towards the chest, because what happens when knees get higher towards belly and chest is the lower back rounds more.
Okay.
And then we don't want all that roundedness in the twist. But if you get your knees way far away from the hips downward, it has a little bit of pull on the front of the hip. So I think the middle ground, sort of knee around the hip socket level, is
that should be where we're aiming for.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you, Sarah. Sarah's a great idea. Laurel, I'm glad you thought that was useful, the Adam's answer on the inversions, and Diane also appreciate that. Excellent.
Cool. Okay, what's next? What's next on our list?
Oh,
I love it. I love this.
This is great, isn't it?
Do it all day.
Yeah, I could too. And luckily we have nothing else in our diaries.
Let's do this every night.
Rachel, also, thank you for your wonderful second day. And thank you for your podcast. So yeah, everybody also check out Adam's on the podcast. Oh my goodness, she did her first headstand in over 40 years.
Oh, exciting.
I think that is excellent, Rachel. That's really, really good. Susanna, good. Have a play. Brilliant. And I'm glad, Fenella, that you have enjoyed the meditation. Awesome. Right, let's go back to the questions which we had beforehand. I'm just giving this a little scroll. Oh, so we have one. Should we talk about feet?
Because I know talk about feet, because I love talking
about feet, Adam. And this is Kate Blake's question. So thank you for this question, Kate. Kate, you're finding that your feet are hurting a lot because you're presumably at home and you're in your bare feet and slippers. You've got supportive sandals, but she wants some exercises to keep the feet happy, a little bit flat-footed. But yeah.
So, yeah, this is not going to be uncommon if you're not used to being barefoot and then suddenly are being barefoot because of this weird situation we're in, or if you're now doing yoga a lot and you're barefoot a lot and you're using the muscles of your foot and ankle in new ways without the support of a shoe, things might get a little achy if they're not used to it. So first off, we have to say, oh, how like reasonable of a response of my foot to be a little pissed off from having to do all this hard work that it's not used to.
Okay.
So then we have to think, have I overdone it? Gone from one extreme of only wearing shoes to now doing all the stuff barefoot, which is what have happened to Kate because she's home. And let things calm down a little bit. And a lot of the time I'll wear indoor shoes and do that. And in terms of the yoga stuff, all right, here's the stuff that I would do is we want to start training the feet to say, oh, I can do what I'm supposed to do. I can be feet. Feet can be feet. So that means we want to wake up the tissues first. Wake up the tissues in terms of hydrating all the connective tissue around the muscles and the bones of the foot, and wake up our awareness of that space. So it's just part of how we move and function. And I would do that in one of two ways or both. Best thing to do is if you have a tennis ball or a massage ball, not something too hard. I'm not a huge fan of the really spiky ones, even like a soft squash ball, tennis ball, or a dedicated massage ball. Roll your feet out every day. Part of your morning practice. Wake up, you're having your coffee, you're sitting at your table, or you're listening to the radio. Just get that foot on a ball, roll out the arches, both sides, roll out the heel, roll out the ball of the foot, grab the ball with your toes, lift the toes away from the ball, grab the ball with the toes, lift the toes away from the ball.
Adam, can you do that? Can you lift a ball up with your toes?
Well, the ball stays on the floor. I could probably. Are you challenging me to see what my feet can do?
Competition with our
I'm gonna show you up. We're gonna have a foot off.
Because I'm like, my little hooves are not going to do that.
So then maybe you could just find those videos of those people who have their arms amputated and learn how to play piano with their toes and stuff. It's like that stuff goes down. So the feet can do a lot. It's just that we don't let them be feet. We don't let feet be feet. Feet be feet. Hashtag feet be feet.
I like
so I would start with the massage ball or a tennis ball or a squash ball or whatever you got, and just roll out. And this is not about you brutalizing your foot. Let it be gentle and caring. So start out with the self massage with the ball, or you can just use your hand and your thumbs and fingers and roll out or you just massage the arches on inside and outside, heel, ball, foot. And then this is the weird thing I like to do. I say it's holding hands with your foot. So pretend this is my foot. You would use a hand, get between the toes.
Oh, I love that.
Move it around.
That's great. I'm actually doing that right now. I'm cross-legged.
Okay.
Because even mentioning it makes you want to do that, doesn't it?
It's so good. And if you do that on one side, all that ball work and the self massage with the hand and the holding hands with your foot on one side, and then stand on 2 feet, and then you will be a convert.
Amazing.
So do all that massage. I'm just warming up. I'm warming up about feet. So you do all that, and then you want to think, all right, that was just me massaging. Now I have to stretch and mobilize. So stretches, you can stretch the foot and ankle in 2 ways. You can just kneel with the foot flat, which for some people is very hard, with toes not tucked under.
I see.
And you're sitting butt on heels. You might have to have a cushion underneath your knees. You might have to have a cushion underneath your butt. You might have to have a cushion between your thigh and your calf so the knee is happy. But then you lengthen out the top of the foot. And then that generally, if you can sit kneeling, does okay. Then the other thing to do is tuck your toes under while you're kneeling and sit your butt to your heel, to your heels, as far back as you can.
Right.
And you might not be able to go as far back with your butt and all your weight. So that's going to be toes tucked under, kneeling, stretching the back of your foot, so the arches of your foot. Yeah. It can be extraordinarily unpleasant if you're not used to it, and those tissues are tight. So I would say be kind to yourself. If you can't sit your butt on your heels, don't. Just keep your toes tucked under and bring your weight as far back as you can while still breathing. Okay. So that's that. And then I would just, seated, I would just spin my ankles around. Both ways.
Oh, yeah.
Lift my toes up, spread my toes. Scrunch my toes, spread my toes. Grip my toes, open my toes. Standing, I would try to lift all my toes and bring them back down. Lift all my toes, bring them back down. And then say, could I lift just my big toe? Could I lift just the small toes? Could I lift the big toe and then the small toes, and then switch? Can I lift just the 3 middle toes and just go wild? And you think I'm crazy saying this, that like a human can't do that, but you can. So you have to train your feet to be mobile and the toes to do what they're meant to. Then it's about, once all that's happening, learning to bear weight in your feet. So all the yoga poses are great for that. You just got to keep an eye that you're not crashing in your arches. And if you're flat-footed, that's going to be a challenge, because that's what she said. So I would say just start bearing weight with things like Warrior 2 in a very short stance, and until you get really confident in your feet. But you're going to have to learn how to bear weight in your feet, or you just got to wear shoes all the time. So you can learn to bear weight in your feet by bearing weight in your feet, but doing so in an incremental, challenging way, not all at once. So little by little, you add that weight. You walk around, or you do some yoga poses, and all the yoga poses put the feet into different shapes, which is great, and different demand. But keep an eye on the arches. Keep an eye on the spread of the toes. And I know lots of people have bunions and things, so that complicates it, and that's a whole other thing. But in general, make sure weight, as you bear weight in the feet, goes into the center of the arch the part of the foot just before the big toe. So the mound of the big toe, it's in the ball of the foot, but where that aligns with the big toe.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mound of the pinky toe. So it's a tripod. And if you press into those 3 points in each foot well and evenly, there's a likelihood that you'll be engaging all the musculature and arches that help you bear weight in the feet.
Okay.
And the other end of that is you can trick it by making sure core is working. So I would do something as simple as standing in Tadasana or mountain pose, trying to do all the things I just said with your feet working into the tripod, and bringing a brick between your thighs or a big heavy book, just something you can squeeze and is thick enough that you don't have to take your legs away from hip distance, and just squeeze that brick in and a little bit up, and that might tell the inner arches to turn on.
Interesting.
So those are things I would try.
Yeah, those are really good ideas. I'm going to add to that because I've always had feet problems personally. I've changed my shoes now, and I now don't use normal shoes. The only shoes I wear are a barefoot kind of shoe.
Yeah.
And I have actually found, because I've suffered from knee problems, bunions, like all the things that corporate people who put their little feet into little things do. And it has transformed my feet. So I'll do a little link to the company that I use, but barefoot shoes are good.
Yeah. Although maybe not, if you're really used to shoes and having trouble, not transitioning all at once.
Not all at once. Yeah. Like everything. Well spotted, Adam. Yes. A bit of moderation. Absolutely. Good plan. Cool. Should we do the next question? Oh, where do you find Adam's podcast? I'll do a little link on that, Sandy. But basically, we've got a sexy podcast page, and you will find it on there. Okay. So let's go to our next question. Should we go for Kathy's down dog to plank question?
Okay. Yes. This is a good one. I think a lot of people have this happen. So Kathy has asked, as I transition from down dog to plank, essentially she just has to shuffle her feet in and out, and the length between her hands and feet in down dog is different than the length between her hands and feet in plank. And that to me is totally normal and natural. And you will just have to shuffle your feet in and out to find it, because body proportions are different. So the demand of being in the shape of down dog to get the ideal placement of the feet, to get the leg stretch and the spinal stretch, and to make sure your ankles can handle it, and make sure your hands and shoulders can handle it, like all that might mean a different length on the mat than plank, which is a totally different pose. And in an ideal vinyasa world, everything would stay put. We wouldn't have to do all those shuffles, but you got to work with your body. I would say find the ideal placement for your down dog, find the ideal placement for your plank, and if they're separate things, shuffle your feet on down.
Have a shuffle. Don't be afraid to shuffle, Kathy.
I mean, I will shuffle in that, especially if I'm coming down to forearms. There might be a shuffle after I come down from Chaturanga and want to come into up dog. I'm not always perfectly placed. So just take the time. This is why moving at a slow speed is important, because it allows you to make these little adjustments as you go. If you're moving too fast, you can't.
And I think that all of us have got such different proportions. To imagine that one person who is 5'2" is going to have exactly the same as somebody who's 5'9". Maybe somebody's got a shorter torso, somebody's got longer arms. Like we're all so different. And I think appreciating and recognizing the value of our difference, and that's cool. Like for my triangle, I always take my feet much closer together and for my lunges, I have my feet way out. It just feels good to me.
You got to do it. And one of the things, a lot of people now have mats that have lines on them. And the danger with that is that you think, I need to be on those lines.
Right.
Or you want to stay put on those lines.
Well, you think the lines are correct.
Yes. So I think what the lines are good for is showing you where you are, so you can shift in and out from that set point and see where things are changing from day to day, but they're not there to tell you where to put your feet. They're there to give you just a guidance of where you are in space.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's really smart. Okay, so we have another question, which is from Jess. Thank you for your question, Jess, about crow pose.
Crow pose.
You are not alone with your crow, a struggling crow. I feel I have the strength, but I struggle to get balance, and I feel like I'm tipping so far forward and not getting off the ground. How does crow work with regard to strength versus balance, or is it confidence? What do you think, Adam?
This is so good. All right, so she has self-reported that she feels she has the strength. So I'll believe her, but I will make sure she knows that the strength in this means you can do a damn good chaturanga with knees up repeatedly, and maybe you can sustain chaturanga. You can come halfway down and hold it for a few breaths. That to me would be the strength. So if you can do that, then you're ready to do things like arm balances, which are essentially other things on top of chaturanga.
Interesting way of putting it.
So crow pose or bakasana to me starts, eventually you straighten your arms, but it starts with bent elbows like chaturanga. But the top part of it, the legs, the torso, are doing child's pose or they're doing squat on top of chaturanga. So to have the strength means you can do a very good chaturanga. So there's that. And if you don't feel like you have the strength, you just got to work on your chaturanga. Now, the rest of this is being able to get far forward enough that you can balance. So the strength component mostly is upper body doing, to begin with, chaturanga. Then the core stuff is the ability to keep the legs in and up, so which is a hip flexor and abdomen. So keeping the legs tucked in. So these are my legs. So there'll be a little bit of roundedness to the spine and lower back because your abdominals are contracting and you're tightly drawing the legs up. So that's the other strength bit of it. And then after that strength bit of it, a lot of it is how, like, knowing how to shift your weight, how to balance and where to place things. So my suggestions would be, once you know you have that strength stuff, the core and the chaturanga, is to try different things, shifting the weight forward. I would start by putting the feet on a brick or a little bit of height. So you're perched, I call it a little crow perch. So your feet are on there and then your hands are on the ground. And you're getting everything ready in chaturanga. So that with the feet lifted a little bit, hips start higher, are pitched higher, and it's not so hard to lift them up and bring them forward and over because they've started. You have a little elevation, especially for women whose center of gravity is lower because the bones of the pelvis are broader and heavier. That getting that little bit of pitch up helps you get forward. So there's the balance thing. The other important balance thing is where the knees are going on the arms. Now, there's people get crazy about this, but some people teach knees on the back of the arm. Some people teach knees on the outside of the arm. It will wholly have to do with your proportions. So I would suggest try knees on the back of the arm. Try knees on the outside of the arm, as high up as possible, and then you can squeeze in. The trouble with the knees on the back of the arm is that it's far more demanding on the wrist because the knees aren't going past the arms, the hips stay further back, and you have to shift the weight so far forward that it's very demanding on the wrist. So I would say knees on the outside of the arm might be a good choice.
Nice.
So then there's the other, so try that stuff. And then there's the confidence thing. The confidence thing, I would say, like everything else, come into it, come out of it, come into it, come out of it. And I really like, on the brick or not, exhaling, tipping the weight forward, and maybe one foot lifts, then tip the weight back. Exhale, other foot lifts, come back. And then exhale, both feet lift. I don't stay, I just come back. Come in and out of it. And I've seen a lot of success with people just tipping in and out of it with the breath. And so it becomes not a big deal. And then eventually you develop the strength and confidence. A lot of people really like having a blanket where their head might hit the floor, or a little cushion. So if you're at home, just put a couch cushion down. So if you crash land, it's fine.
You know what? I've got a brilliant photo. I'm sure my mum, who's right on this chat, won't mind me sharing her photo of her doing a crow with the sofa cushion right on your foot.
Good for you, Vera.
Anything that builds up confidence is great, because you know that you're just going to nosedive onto that. And I don't think, Mum, you have nosedived onto the sofa. So actually, I think that that is a useful thing. Just use a cushion and don't be afraid to have a play with that. That's
and then just don't, it's not all or nothing. The last thing I would try, if it's not with this crow ain't working, do it on your butt or your back. So you just flip it.
Okay.
I think that we have at some point in time, my crow pose practice will come out where we do all these things, where we do it in different orientations to gravity and with the bricks. So stay tuned. That'll happen in the future.
Oh, thank you, Adam. All right, that's good. And I hope that helps Jess. We do have a crow challenge as well, so we can link to that. Sandy has said the pose that she is most grateful for is Adam's not so wild thing. It's fabulous. It's fabulous because it really takes it easy on the shoulder.
Yeah, so the thing with wild thing, which a lot of people love, especially in sort of more fluid vinyasa practices, it's like, the dropping into it from three-legged dog. It's really hard to place the hand and the shoulder well for that if you're coming into it from movement and you're coming in for it with a straight arm. So I think it's really nice to start. If you haven't done this, I don't remember. It's in the rebound practice, I think. Is that you can just start it from seated. Really good.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's really cool. Okay, does anybody have any more questions?
One exciting last question for us.
One teeny tiny question we do have time for. And Mum has said, Adam, I'm a great fan of you and your classes. Very simple position of bended knees on a chair with support of a bolster is amazingly effective. Feel quite loose after. You might say, I feel grounded. That's nice.
That is a passive inversion. It'll just calm the nervous system right down. It's really, really good.
Yeah, nice. Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have more questions right here, so that's cool. We've had a little chat for an hour, and Adam, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you because you make everything so simple. It's that ability to break things down that really, really is.
I'm so glad. Well, because it's yoga's always been hard for me. So I'm trying to
you make
figure it out. I've done the hard work. So hopefully that will help you all on your path. And we all know this is a tough time. And it's important that we be kind to ourselves during this tough time. And we be kind to each other. And that we grab onto these moments of community. Like we all think about you and care about you, and we are here with you, and lots of people are here with you. So remember that, and I'm sure we'll do this again.
Yeah, I hope so. And absolutely right. Like, let's all just be kind and remember that we are all connected. We're all in our each individual little houses. We are separate by distance, but we are all connected. And there's never been a better way of showing it than our yoga practice and our yoga community here on the Movers Group and all the other yoga communities. So I'm very grateful to you guys for the support. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, Adam. Bye.